To start?
Let's go.
Okay,
Janice joined us. Hi, Janice.
oh, good. I can't see everybody who's here. I guess I could probably, there we go. Now I got a better picture. Anyway,
Quick question. Why does it say recording in the upper left?
oh, because we're actually going to record this so that the people, if they miss the class, they can come back in later. But I would recommend the chit chat we did at the beginning get chopped off. I'm assuming that's not too hard to do.
I did not include that.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. So my original idea for this class was going to be and we talked about this like 2 weeks ago now, to talk about the essential things in prayer. Those two essential building blocks are the Amidah, the standing prayer, and the Shema and its blessings, and kind of explain some of those things. But the coronavirus has intervened, and and what I thought might be useful for today, a section of the prayer that's not quote unquote mandatory, so to speak, but is one of my favorite parts of the prayer book, is the Birkot HaShachar, the early morning prayers. And I thought I would use those as an example to show a little bit about what our new prayer book does, to help us with the prayers. And then in one little section, the Ma Tovu Ohalecha prayer, to show how that was constructed and how that can, and once we understand how it was constructed, it can add extra layers of meaning for us. And then, sort of, this would be, I think the morning blessings are particularly relevant given our current situation. So I have two handouts for today. One is taken from the Rabbinical Assembly's prayer book, the Sidur Lev Shalem, for the Birkot, the morning blessings. And the other is sources for Ma Tovu, to show how that was put together. Okay.
I'm sorry. Are we supposed to have those in a PDF or something?
Yes. So if you go to the chats, click that chat balloon at the bottom of your page, and you'll get a chat window on the right of the screen. Where, by the way, if you want to type in, it allows you to type a message at the bottom. You can type in questions or comments, and we can relate to those. But Jennifer has already posted the links to the two handouts in that chat box. But that's okay, because I also have them open on my computer, and I can switch the window that we're looking at to my desktop, so that so I can show you the text there. So maybe I'll do that right now. Okay, so there, how is that? Can you see it now?
Yeah, we can see the morning blessing.
Okay, good. So let me get this out of the way. Okay, so so the very first thing we do, the very first prayer that's usually said when we wake up in the morning is Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shehech zarta bi nishbati bechemla rabba emunatecha. Since we have a relatively small class here, is one other aspect that I can kind of do, which might be helpful, is to look at the Hebrew language itself. Are people interested in that? Yes?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so modeh, in the Hebrew verb modeh, and modah for the feminine form, can either mean I give thanks or I admit. And in this case, it's I give thanks. So modeh, and here the subject of the sentence comes after the verb. English, we like to put the subject first and then the verb, but in other languages, that's not necessary. So the verb came first and then the subject, right? Ani modeh is the way we'd say it in English. I give thanks. But here again, the verb comes first, okay? Modeh ani lefanecha, and lefanecha is before you. Melech, king. Chai, living king. V'kayam, and existing. Your eternal sovereign. Shehechazarta bi nishmati. Shehechazarta, that you have returned be within me, neshama, right? The word neshama means soul, and nishmati means my soul. Bechemla, with mercy. Rabba emunatecha, great is your trustworthiness or faithfulness. Was that helpful to look at the Hebrew? Yes? Okay. So the very first thing you say in the morning is, thank you, God, for turning on the lights of my soul. I like to think of it sort of as you're booting up the computer in the morning, right? When your personal computer, your internal computer. When you boot up your computer, right, it runs through a whole scanning process to load the operating software and whatever, and then it wakes up and says hello. And so when we wake up in the morning, we're booting up our internal consciousness. And so the first thing we want to do when we are aware of being alive, basically, is to thank God for being alive. And again, we often take that sort of thing for granted, but when you have a coronavirus around, maybe we shouldn't take it for granted all the time. On the left side of the prayer book, you have some alternative opening meditations, right? So these are things that didn't make it into the standard prayer book, but were written and say similar things that you might want to think about when you first wake up. And I like them. So Yehuda Halevi on the left, can you see the hand, by the way, my hand cursor? I don't know if that's showing up on the thing or not.
Yes, it's
It
showing up.
does.
Okay, yeah. So over there, the Yehuda Halevi was a poet of Spain during Muslim Spain. And he wrote a lot of beautiful poetry. And this is just a little piece. On the day that I searched for God, for I could not see the divine, I turned to my heart and my mind and found your throne within, a witness to you in me. Any thoughts about that? I thought it's just a beautiful, you wake up, thank God for being alive, and if you're looking for God, look inward. At the bottom is a prayer from Nachman of Bratslav, who is a Hasidic rabbi. I kind of like his intentions for the, it's titled here, Intentions for the New Day. Master of all worlds, may it be your will that the light of your face be reflected in mine. You know, this is the idea, we're created in God's image. So we want God's image to be reflected in our face. May my mouth speak only what is true. May my eyes see the good in all that I meet. You know, it's, we probably all know people who have what's called the ayin hara, an evil eye, which really means you see everything negatively. Everything you see is negative. And you're always complaining and you always feel bitter. It's not healthy for you, and it's not good, you know, for having friends, right? And better to shine more light and happiness and joy into the world, right? So may my eyes see the good in all that I meet, helps us to, and may my ears be attentive to the troubles of those who address me. So even while I want to put positive energy into the world, I recognize that other people are suffering, and I want to help them. I want to hear them. You know, one of the things a lot of therapists say today, you know, we're all struggling. We're all out of sorts and worried and tense. People just want to be heard. One of the reasons this online process has become very popular now is because even in our isolation, we want people to hear us. We want to know that we're being heard. And so here he expresses this in a normal time. May I be attentive to the troubles of those who address me. May I breathe the awe of you so that I lovingly face all I meet. right? Being in awe of God helps us to be more kind and loving to other people. May the words I utter be acceptable to you, my rescuer and protector. And boy, he ends it with those two words. Again, I think in our situation today, we really, these all kind of resonate, I think. Any thoughts about that so far? Okay. So the two blessings over here on the right then are the sort of two parts of the human being, the soul.
Rabbi, I'm sorry, I couldn't find my unmute. If I could ask a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I really like the commentary that was in the bottom left. I can't remember the rabbi's name anyway.
Nachman of Bratslav, yeah.
Yeah. There are two parts to the morning blessing here that I think are missing. And I'm just wondering if you can comment when those got taken out. One is that presumably this is a man praying, and he says, thank you for making me not a woman.
Oh, yeah. That's later.
Oh, that's later? All right.
Yeah,
We'll wait till we get to that. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll get to that, yeah. So Nachman of Bratslav, interestingly, just a little about him. I'm not a scholar of Hasidism. You have to ask Rabbi Horowitz about that. He knows more about it than me. But I know, this much. And he suffered with depression in a lot of his life, which is interesting. I think that his depression is what motivated him to see and express things the way he did. But he even, like, one of his expressions is, it's a commandment to be happy all the time. Imagine a guy who's suffering with depression saying that. Mitzvah gedola lihyot besimcha tamid. That's what he said. It's a great mitzvah to be happy all the time. Okay, anyway, let's go take a look at these two.
Daniel,
Yeah?
can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So is there a word I can replace for throne?
Yeah. Yeah, so here's the thing with these metaphors. These metaphors made a lot of sense in the time they were written. And by the way, when we talk about Matova, we're going to see this whole thing of throne also comes into play a little bit in there. Yeah, and I don't see God as an old man sitting on a throne. So I don't know. So let me ask you, what do you think?
I don't know. I tend to just get thrown off when I see
No pun intended.
Everything. Yeah, everything just, it sidetracks me.
So when I try to imagine God, because again, so this is a problem we have. We are absolutists in believing that God doesn't have a form. So he's not an old man, and he doesn't need to sit, and he's certainly not going to sit on a throne, right? So right away we know we're talking about a metaphor here. But the problem also is that human beings, there's that expression, seeing is believing. So there's something about sight and images, at least for people who are born with sight, that are so powerful, so internal, that it's hard for us to imagine something that doesn't have a form. So when we're praying to God, we want to have something in our mind's eye, some image, something, and there is nothing. So what do you do? So what I do, for better or worse, is I imagine space. And it's not that I imagine that God is space, but God's the creator of that space. And that puts me in the frame of mind of, wow, that's pretty awesome. Whatever being created this universe is an amazing being, right? And is my creator, and I believe has a relationship with us, even in this little isolated planet on the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. So what about a throne? So I guess the throne is the location of God's seat of power. That's what it sort of is a metaphor about. That's what the metaphor is trying to tell us. And again, I would think maybe just, for me personally, thinking about the universe. Not a seat, but like the entire universe. That's God's throne.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask Karen, what is it about the throne metaphor that bothers you?
I just think of a person. I mean, my mind immediately goes to a person sitting in a, a king sitting on a throne.
Right, and I think that's a very common thing to do, and I guess and that does throw us. And for all I know, our ancestors for hundreds of years may have taken these things literally. Maimonides, of course, 12th century philosopher, would have been abhorrent. He would have been outraged that people thought of it as a literal throne and an old man. I mean, he is a fervent. God doesn't have a form. There's no throne.
The Hebrew word throne, does it have another meaning?
Chair. Let's see. Where's the word? Where is that word?
I don't know which word it is. Or maybe it's not. Maybe that's
just in this prayer. I didn't see it in the prayer here.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So usually kisei elyon would be the chair, is chair. Literally means chair on high. I don't know if there was a special word for throne. Okay, so now you have these two prayers that come next, and so they relate to the soul and then the body. And in Greek philosophy, those were distinct, and even in Maimonides, who studied Aristotle, the soul is the perfect, formless idea, and the body is the imperfect, limited casing. But in more classic Judaism, the soul and the body are intimately connected with each other. And so the opening prayer here is for both of these. So let's look at the one for the soul first. Elohai, which is Elohim, you drop the final mem off, right? And the yud ending makes it mine. So just as we said Shehechazarta bi, that he restored in me, my soul, bi, the word bi. The means in, and the yud at the end means mine. So here, just grammatically speaking, Elohai means Elohim Shali, my God. Yeah? So my God, Neshama, the soul, Shenatata, that you gave me, you gave me, you put within me, Taharahi. So every noun in Hebrew, like in Spanish, is either masculine or feminine. And the word neshama is a feminine noun. So taharahi means she is pure. Right? My soul is pure. We don't believe that we're born in sin. We believe that people are born with pure souls. Ata barata, you formed it. Ata yitzarta, you fashioned it. Two words that mean similar things. Ata nafachtabi, you have established it within me. Ata mashamra bakirbi, and you guard over it within me. Ata atid litla mimeni, and in the future you're going to take it from me. Right? That's when we pass. Laksi Rabbi lati lavo, and this was the belief in resurrection of the dead, to return it to me sometime in the future. I don't believe in resurrection, so I always reinterpret resurrection to mean the sort of spiritual afterlife. So I have this pure soul, you put it in me, you fashioned it, you formed it, you keep it, you guard over it, you watch over it for me. Eventually my body may cease to exist, but I'm going to be still connected to you in my spirit. Calls man shana shama bakirbi, all the whole time that my soul is within me. Moda ani lefanecha, there you repeat it again, I am going to give thanks to you. Adonai Elohai, Lord, Lord is not a good word. Yud He Vav He is God's name. So we could say Mike or Sammy. God's name, whatever you want to use for God's name there. Right? My God, Elohai is my God, right? The Elohei Avotai, and the God of my ancestors. And if you want to say Emotai, my female ancestors, I think we have a generic word in English that we can cover both men and women, so I like ancestors. Ribon means master. Ribon kol ha'olami hama'asim, master of all creation, of all of the created things. Adon kol hanishamot. I guess not a good word for Lord. How do they translate Lord here? Ruler of all, master of all souls. I guess master of all souls. Baruch atah Adonai hamachzir nishamot lefagari metim. Blessed are you, God, who restores the souls to lifeless bodies. So again, a prayer when you first wake up and you realize you have control over your body again. We don't have the control over when we're sleeping. We have control over our senses. We give thanks to God for that ability and restoring our soul to us. And our souls are pure. That's the first blessing. So then you're supposed to wash your hands, and then you're going to say the blessing for the body. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, Frank, our God, King of the universe, or ruler of the universe is a generic term, or commander of the universe. Melech is kind of, again, you can interpret that different ways. We don't have kings today, so it's not a metaphor that resonates with us. Asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chachma, who has fashioned human beings with wisdom. Ubara vo nikavim, and is created within us, within the body, holes. Nikavim, many holes. Chalulim, and many tubes. Blood vessels and ligaments and all that stuff. Galui v'yadua lifnei kisei kodecha. It's revealed and known to you. There's kisei, before your throne. How do they translate that there? It is known and revealed to you. They just say to you. We don't need his throne. But that is the word that's used there, kisei. Is revealed to known to you, she'im yifateach echad mehem, that if one of them should open, o yisatem echad, or one should be closed, efshar lehit kayem, it would be impossible to exist. Mod lefanecha, and to stand before you. Baruch atah Adonai rofei chol basar umafli lasod. Again, in this particular time, what a great blessing. Blessed are you, God, who heals all flesh and causes wonders. So there's a blessing here for the soul and then a blessing for the body, thanking God for both of those aspects of our being. Any thoughts or questions about that?
I have one. I can't find how to raise my hand here. So, and I don't mean to belabor the point. I think you covered it earlier, Rabbi. But if you scroll up just a little bit to the part about my soul.
Yeah.
It's saying the soul that you have given me is pure. You created it, etc. But and you put it into me. It's as if, to me, when I think about my own soul, I am thinking about my personality, myself. But here it seems to be dividing me from my soul. It's like a separate entity. And maybe that's a little bit too obtuse a question, but for now. But
yeah, I think the main thing I get from this opening blessing is, first of all, that we're born innocent and pure. And since we recite this every morning is a new day. And regardless of what happened in the past, we have a chance to do something new and different today. So start with a clean slate, a full heart, and your soul is pure. Try and use it to improve the world in the 16 hours you're going to be awake.
Okay.
And then thanking God for the body and that all the bodily functions work. It's only when we're sick or in the hospital, God forbid, all of a sudden we realize that that's not automatic. It's not assume, it shouldn't be assumed that the body works the way it's supposed to. So we thank God for the amazing complex organism that we have that keeps everything functioning. It's really genius. I didn't go to medical school, so I don't know all the details of that, but it doesn't take a doctor really to realize how amazing the body is. All right, so the next thing is prayers on entering the synagogue, and it's matovu. So I just wanted to spend a little time showing how this was constructed. You can look on the margin on the right side, and they do give you the verses that the thing is based upon. And what I did was I took those verses and I created a source sheet, which puts those verses into context. I realized this morning as I was kind of trying to finish preparing that what I could have done and didn't do was put in boldface type the specific verse that's quoted. So you've got a few verses before and sometimes verses after the quoted verse, because I wanted to show you the context, but then it's not easy to see where the verse itself is. Let me pull up what I did this morning was I did I fixed that. So can you see this? Is the sources for Matovu on the screen now?
No, you're still
Yeah.
On the other thing, okay, so stop share and I'll go back to sharing again. Yeah, right, that's because I changed software. Okay, here we go. There, okay, now you have it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So, so here I highlighted I put in boldface type the quote. So, Matovu o halecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael, how fair are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel. We say when we come into a synagogue. And of course, probably everybody on this chat knows that this was originally spoken by a non-Jewish prophet, the name Bilam, who was hired by Balak, the king of the Midianites, a Moabite, sorry, to curse us. Bilam was a famous prophet and seer in the ancient world, apparently. And so this king hired him to curse the Israelites because he was afraid of us. And you know the story, Bilam said, well, let me check with God and see if I'm allowed to. God told him, you're not allowed to. So he told Balak, I can't do it. And Balak said, I'll raise your wages, I'll double the price. And he said, well, let me ask God, maybe he'll change his mind. And God said, no, I'm not going to let you do it. And he came back and said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And the third time he went back to God, and God said, all right, you can go with him, but you can only say what I let you say. And so Bilam goes on the journey, and when he sees, he's on a hilltop, and he's looking down at the tents of the Israelites below. And this is when he sings this song of praise to the Israelite camp. So in verse 2, as Bilam looked up and saw Israel encamped tribe by tribe, the Spirit of God came upon him, right? And now God's telling him what to say. Taking up this theme, he said, the word of Bilam, the son of Beor, the word of the man whose eye is true. You know, I can't lie. God's only going to let me tell the truth. Word of him who hears God's speech, who beholds visions of the Almighty, prostrate, but with eyes unveiled. I'm seeing this clearly. And he says, how fair are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel, like palm groves that stretch out, like gardens beside a river, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the water. So he ends up praising the Israelites. Of course, Balak is furious with him for doing that. In context, the blessing is about our homes, the tents, right? That's the individual homes of the Israelite people. But later, rabbinic tradition considers the tents to be referring to the tent of meeting, which then becomes the symbol for the temple in Jerusalem. And then when the temple is destroyed, the synagogue replaces the temples. And so if you turn back to the source sheet of the PDF file, let me see if I can do that. Where's the PDF? Here we go. So on the right side, let me shift this over. In the comments, it says, these words were uttered by the Gentile prophet Bilam, who had been hired to curse Israel, but instead blessed them. Many rabbinic readings of this verse understand the dwellings of Jacob and sanctuaries of Israel to refer to the houses of study and prayer houses. So we enter the synagogue with the words of a non-Jew, here used to praise the synagogue. This verse was added to the service in the late Middle Ages when European royal courts became more formal, which warranted a similar formal introduction to our worship of the sovereign of all. So this gets back to Karen's comment about the throne, right? So the idea was in the Middle Ages, when you entered the throne room of a real king, there was some kind of formal proclamation you were supposed to make. And so as a result of that, it seems Jews put together kind of a formal proclamation to make when we entered the synagogue, which we consider God's holy place.
Rabbi, do you, the common tune that we use, Ma Tovu, is that, how old is that? Do you know, have any history?
Yeah, so that's a Diane question.
Yeah, I figured.
But what she generally tells me is that those tunes are pretty modern, like, 18th, 19th, 20th century. Unfortunately, our earlier ancestors didn't have musical notation, so we don't know what music they sang it to, but presumably they did sing it. Okay, so now we have that opening verse, but now he's got some other verses that we then attach to it. Vani barov chasdecha avo betecha, right, which translates to, as for me, through your great kindness, I enter your house. Again, the idea we're entering the synagogue, God's house. In awe of you, I bow toward your holy sanctuary. And I think in the commentary, it actually says that when it says, I bow to your sanctuary, people actually would bow towards the ark at the front of the synagogue when they walked in. This is another example of when we read something, we do something, right? So before the Amidah, for instance, we say Kuma Adonai, which is asking God to arise, and so we stand up before we do the Amidah, right? So anyway, so here this is a verse from Psalm 8. I have to switch back to the other screen. Sorry. Source sheet. Okay. Boom. Okay, there. Sorry, Psalm 5. For the leader on Nehilot, which is a kind of flute, a reed instrument that has holes in it. So a flute or some kind of thing like that. So a Psalm of David, give ear to my speech, O Lord. Consider my utterance. Heed the sound of my cry, my King and God, for I pray to you. Hear my voice, O Lord, at daybreak. At daybreak I plead before you and wait. Oh, I highlighted that because I think that was in the back of their mind when they threw in the verse that's actually verse 8 here that I put in boldface type. But I, through your abundant love, enter your house. I bow down in awe at your holy temple. But at the verse 4, he's talking about praising God at daybreak. And I think that's the reason why we only say Ma Tovu in the morning service when we come in. Because, this verse particularly applied to the morning. Okay, so then comes, again, I highlighted this in Psalm 26, the next verse comes, and I highlighted verse 6, even though that's not the one quoted, just because it says, I wash my hands in innocence and walk around your altar, O Lord. And of course, we're all washing our hands all the time now. I thought it was interesting. But anyway, so raising my voice in thanksgiving and telling all your wonders. O Lord, I love your temple abode and the dwelling place of your glory. So again, looking back at the reason I'm giving you the context for these verses is sometimes the context adds a little extra flavor, a little extra meaning, another layer of interpretation. And in this case, washing my hands, I think, was an interesting thought to add to this. Now, the next thing I kind of screwed up. The thing that this part over here is Hebrew. It's actually for the next psalm. I should have put Psalm 95 before the Hebrew. And the reason I brought the Hebrew in here was because we sing Psalm 95 Friday night as part of Kabbalat Shabbat. Lechu neranana lahadonai nari alitzur yishen. Right? I don't know, or other verses, other melodies. Anyway, it's the first psalm of the Kabbalat Shabbat service. But for purposes of the morning prayer, we just quote verse 6. And so in English, that is, come, let us bow down and kneel, bend the knee before the Lord our Maker. Now, if you go back to the text here, you'll see that in the commentary, see where my cursor is? Do you see the hand? Do you see can you see the hand? Yeah. I will bow and prostrate myself. The liturgy recasts Psalm 95:6 from the plural. Remember, it was we will do this, to the singular, I will bow. As all passages opening the service are phrased in the singular, so they wanted to, they actually changed the conjugation of the verb from the original so that it's also in the singular, right? So they felt pretty comfortable quoting the verse, but then adjusting it to fit the new context. The ancient rabbis declared that bowing performed during the Amidah fulfilled the function of kneeling and prostration. Today, prostration takes place in the synagogue only on the high holy days. Okay, so that's that part over there. And then let's go back to the source sheet for the last one. Wait 1 second. Okay. So now we go, the last source is from Psalm 69. As for me, may my prayer come to you, O Lord, at a favorable moment, O God. In your abundant faithfulness, answer me with your sure deliverance. And again, you know, this is a verse I don't pay much attention to. I hardly even say Ma Tovu any day, really. But I mean, I'm, you know, usually not in the synagogue and when I'm in Friedman Levitt, we skip Birkot HaShachar altogether, right? So I'm hardly ever saying Ma Tovu, but it's a beautiful prayer. And boy, does this last phrase really resonate with us today. Oh God, in your abundant faithfulness, answer me with your sure deliverance. Okay, so so now I need to go back to the Birkot HaShachar. We're going to talk about what Daniel was saying. Let's go back to that. Boom. Okay, so now we're going to go to the early morning blessings. So these are, I like to think of this again like you're booting up your computer, and like the operating system of your computer, you know, checks to see what kind of hardware there is, right? Oh, I have a hard drive. I have a CD drive, although a lot of computers don't anymore. I'm connected to the internet, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I have an internet connection. I have a mouse. I have blah, blah. So the operating system is checking out the system. And the early morning blessings are doing kind of that with our own body. So the first blessing is, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, blessed are you, ruler of the universe. Blessed are you, Mike, or Johnny, or Frank, our God, ruler of the universe. Asher natan l'sechvi, who has given the rooster wisdom, havchin bein yom uvein laila, to distinguish between day and night, right? So before there were alarm clocks, the rooster was the one that crowed and woke us up in the morning. So the first thing we do is thank God for the alarm clock. not something most of us actually want to give thanks to, because it means we have to wake up. But, nevertheless, if we want to go out and do things in the world, the first thing we need to do is wake up. So we need an alarm clock. So thank God for the alarm clock. Then comes Baruch Atanai L'Chalam She'asani B'Tzalmo. Okay, so here are the 3 blessings that originally were written in the negative form. Thank you, God, for not making me a woman. That was what Daniel was referring to. Thank you, God, for not making me a non-Jew. And thank you, God, for not making me a slave. And our movement decided that all 3 of those were offensive. And anyway, they're unnecessary. It's okay to be proud of who you are, but it's not necessary to denigrate somebody else. Right? I'm happy I'm a Jew. I'm happy I'm a free person. I'm happy I'm a human being and not an ant or a snail. I'm happy I'm Jewish because I like the Jewish tradition, but other people are entitled to their faith traditions as well, and more power to them. And I'm happy I'm free person living in the United States. So we just changed all 3 of those to a positive thing. And by saying, thank you, God, for making me in your image, men and women can both say the same prayer. So on a side note, I asked Rabbi Gelman about this at UOS. And I think their decision was not to say those 3 blessings out loud. So people can say whatever version they want to say privately. Like in the Orthodox world, they're not so free to change liturgy. But he's also uncomfortable with the formulation, so they just do them silently.
You may have just answered my next question. Isn't that a really unusual course of action for an Orthodox synagogue of any sort?
Yeah, well, you have to understand that Rabbi Gelman is kind of at the very liberal end of Orthodox. He's kind of on the cutting edge of modern Orthodoxy, really. He's trying to, I believe, he's pushing the envelope as far as the Orthodox world can, pretty much, They have a women's minyan, for instance, where women will read Torah. So there's a kind of a prohibition of having a woman read the Torah if there's men around. So they just do it. Okay, well, we'll just have women do it then. So he's pushing it as far as he feels he can go. Which is why I say, thank God I'm a conservative Jew. Okay, so Ben Chori. So then Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shazam Yisrael. Okay, so then after we're thanking God for all 3 of those things, that's kind of about our essence, right? We are humans, we're free, we're Jews. So the next part is Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Pokeach Ivrim, who gives sight to the blind, right? So you open your eyes, it's like you turned on the lights, and you can see the universe around you. So thank God you've given us sight. Then you get dressed. So you thank God for giving us clothes to wear, clothes the naked. By the way, for those people who are so poor they can't afford clothes, that sort of there's sort of a mitzvah, a commandment for us to provide clothes for them. There's a midrash that says, God clothes the naked, so we should clothe the naked. When did God clothe the naked? When he kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, he gave them clothes to wear. So the tradition says, just as God clothes the naked, we have a responsibility to make sure that there's no poor people who can't afford clothes. We're going to give them clothes also. But here, we're assuming that you're at home and you're not in that condition, and you have clothes to wear. So thank God I have clothes to wear. Then thank God for releasing the bound. Now, this literally probably meant, when you're sleeping, your body generally doesn't move, or at least it doesn't move voluntarily. Now that you're awake, you can make your hands move and pull your ears or whatever else you want to do. So thank you, God, for releasing us from the bindings of sleep. But releasing those who are bound can also mean more literally, talk about, the human trafficking and stuff like that. And again, the commandment is on us to make sure that that doesn't happen in the world. So we're glad God has freed us, but we need to make sure other people are free as well. And then comes the blessing for Zokef Kefufim, to straighten up those who are bent over. I'm finding that harder to do now that I'm getting older. When I sit at my desk too long, sometimes my back doesn't want to straighten as much as it used to. Good to exercise. But God, so one of the great things about human beings is we don't walk on all fours anymore. We walk on 2 feet, and that makes our hands, frees our hands up to manipulate the world, right? That's all because we can straighten ourselves out and stand upright. We can use these hands to go out and do good things in the world. And so thank God for that. We're not like the other animals who walk on all fours. We can stand up and go out and do things. And so now we look out the window and we can see, whoa, there's a whole world out there, stretched out the world before us. Who steadies our steps is how they're translating this. Gives our steps, establishes our feet. We're not standing on an earthquake. I did live in California for a while where this blessing might have been particularly meaningful, right? In California, after an earthquake, you're happy that you're able to stand up and the earth isn't shaking underneath you. But normally the fact, we take it for granted we can walk, but we know other people who need walkers to walk. But thank God most of us can walk pretty steadily and comfortably, and that's what this blessing is about. And if you do walk with a walker, so thank God we have created walkers that I can still walk. Baruch Atah Mechalam She'asali Kol Sarki, who's made everything I need. This is where it reminds us the difference between needs and wants. We want a lot of stuff, but what do we actually need? Food, shelter, right? So God's providing the necessities, and it really has created a world that provides an abundance of these if we only treat it well. Baruch Atah Mechalam Ozer Israel Bigvura, who helps Israel with strength. Baruch Atah Mechalam Oter Israel B'Tifara, who adorns Israel with glory. I guess with the commandments, and tries to provide us a way to make a useful life. Baruch Atah Mechalam Hanoten Le'ayav Koach, who gives strength to the tired, right? That's when you drink coffee. When this blessing was written was before coffee was discovered, but now that we have coffee, I would say this is that's one of the first things most of us do in the morning. So when you have your coffee in the morning, you're giving strength to the weary, and thanking God that there is such a fabulous elixir. I see somebody drinking some now. Okay, then there's a whole blessing about may it be your will, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, that you accustom us to study Torah. Now that we've turned on the computer, we've established that we've got all the moving parts. Now we want to access some of our hard drive, right? And the program. The program is about going out and doing good things in the world. We need to access the commandments to remind us of those things. So may it be your will, God of our ancestors, to accustom us to study your Torah and cling to your mitzvot. Do not lead us into error. Right, we're about to start our day. Let's not make any mistakes. We're going to try and do better today than we did yesterday. So lead us not into error, transgression, or sin. Subject us to trials of disgrace. Do not let the evil inclination control us. Distance us from people who would do us evil. Maybe today we're distancing ourselves from most people right now, at least 6 feet. And from friends who commit evil, spur us to the yearning to do good and act with goodness. And bend our will to your desires, right, so that we try to make the world a better place. Today and every day, may you look upon us, and may all who look upon us with eyes filled with kindness, love, and compassion, and act towards us with kindly love. Baruch atah Adonai, who acts kindly with love to the people of Israel. Okay, any questions so far? So the last little piece here today is, again, another kind of a blessing that starts out very depressing, but then ends in a positive way. So now that we're all alive and awake and aware and remember God's Torah, we're thinking about God, master of the universe. If you have that image of in your mind of the entire universe, and we're just on one little ball in the outer arm of the Milky Way galaxy, this prayer is speaking to that emotion. Master of all worlds, not upon our merit do we rely in pleading before you, but upon your great compassion. Because what are we? What is our life? What goodness do we actually do, or righteousness do we accomplish? What achievements have we really done? What's going to be lasting? Most of us won't do anything that will be in the history books. What is our power, our victories? What shall we say in your presence, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors? Heroes, the real known people, count as nothing in your presence. Famous are as though they had never been. Wise seem ignorant. Clever seem as lacking reason. The sum of our deeds is chaos. In your presence, our lives are futile. Human beings have no superiority over beasts. I mean, we're finding out more and more how closely we are related to the rest of the animal kingdom. Everything is vanity. Sounds like Ecclesiastes. Okay, so that's depressing. Then the prayer comes and says, okay, it's not so bad. Surely, though, we are your people, partners to your covenant, descendants of Abraham who loved you, and to whom you made a pledge on Mount Moriah, the seat of Isaac, his designated heir, who was bound on the altar, the congregation of Jacob, your firstborn, whom you renamed Israel and Yeshurun because of your love for him and the delight he gave you. Therefore, it's our duty to thank and glorify you, to bless and sanctify and praise your name. How blessed are you, how goodly is our portion, how delightful our lot, how beautiful our inheritance. How blessed are we that twice every day, morning and evening, as we awaken, as we end our day, we say Shema Yisrael. We live in a created world. We're servants of the Creator, and we're bound to take the world and make it a better place. And whatever little things we do, minor as they might be, maybe they'll never be recorded in the history books. Nevertheless, we are part of God's creation, and we're doing what God wants us to do when we make the world a better place. You were before the world was created. You are since creation. You are the first, you're the last, and besides you there is no other. Baruch atah Adonai, who sanctifies your name through community. And so in the time when we can't come together as a community physically, we're coming together here spiritually on this and in other ways. But when we can come together physically as a community again, we will. And let me just interject this, and then I'll take questions. So if you look at the Bible in the whole context, right, he creates human beings, and he says they're very good. And then right away they screw up. And then things get really bad. We're constantly killing and torturing each other. So he starts all over again with Noah. And he's still not happy. So he takes aside Abraham and he says, look, I'm going to tell you how to live a good life, and you'll be a model for the rest of the people. And then that's not good enough. Because then God says, I want to create a holy society, a society that has compassion for each other and that provides justice and kindness and mercy and goodness. So I'm gonna take these people out of slavery. I'm gonna give them these rules that if they live by them will create this just society. And they can be a model of how to have a just society, not just a fair, kind individual, but a society will be the role model. And that's the purpose. Now, we failed a lot of times in our history in this mission, but we keep trying, and hopefully we're getting better at it. And so that's why he says, blessed are you, you're named through community, because we're trying, you can accomplish much more as a people than you can as an individual. Now, the great power of human beings is that we can come together in large numbers with a single focus and a purpose. And when we do that, we can actually change the world. That's what Margaret Mead promised us, right? Never be surprised what a small, determined group of people can accomplish in the world. Nearly all the, I forgot her expression, but nearly every accomplishment has been done by such people. So as a community, we can accomplish more, and that's where we can really make a difference. So on that, I want to stop our study of the morning prayers. The next ones are prayers for the studying of Torah. But and are there any questions? I'm gonna stop sharing and go back to the, okay.
I thought the line about, I forget how it was phrased, but providing the things that we need. And you made a comment, Rabbi, that something about the difference between what we want and what we need.
Yeah.
Boy, that sure is important nowadays. Do I really need blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, 100 rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Right? 50
well, wait a minute,
bottles
I
of
do
water.
need that.
Yeah. Right, the difference between needs and wants. We're in a very consumer society, so we often get that confused. Any other thoughts?
I think this format worked great.
Thank you. So here's a suggestion I saw on a Facebook page. I think it was a Rice University professor posted. She said she asked her students to send her emojis after this kind of interactive thing, so that she would get feedback from them as to what they thought about it. So you can either send me email messages, or if you want just an emoji, to tell me what you thought and if there are suggestions for how to do it better. It is a little bit hard because we're not seeing each other all the time. And I did a lot of talking. So any final thoughts? Okay, so we'll do this again next week. I will go back to talking about what we originally planned to do, I guess, the essential building blocks of prayer. And I'll either start with the Shema and its blessings or the Amidah. I'll figure that out, and we'll have handouts. The handout links will be on the same web page that the link to this class is found. So we'll just keep adding handouts below. Okay? Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.